Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sunday League Pundits channel. Utkarsh is not with us today, so Chaitanya has joined us again for the live
Hi.
match reaction. Utkarsh is busy. So, we're going to be reacting live to Leicester City versus Liverpool. And was a pretty shocking performance from Liverpool. 2 weeks, the second time in the span of like a week or 10 days. And we're going to be debating whether Liverpool is finishing top four going to be an achievement for Liverpool from this point onwards? And can Leicester actually finish above Liverpool? So let's get started.
Leicester finishing above Liverpool is now a realistic chance because Leicester are 5 points clear of Liverpool now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, and now Liverpool has to fight for the fourth spot because United have a game in hand and they're 3 points or 2 points ahead. 2 points or five.
United is 5 points ahead of Liverpool,
So United are
and I
five
think if
points.
we win, we'll have an 8 point advantage over Liverpool now.
Yes, so now top fight for top four is the big thing for Liverpool now, and with Everton have 2 games in hand. Aston Villa have 3 games in hand over Liverpool, and if they want to win 2 of those 3 games, they will finish above. They're going to then going to go above Liverpool. So I think yes, this is a fight for them. Chelsea is
I
playing Newcastle. They have a high chance, or like they're playing pretty well under Tuchel, so they have high chances of finishing, ending above Liverpool at the end of this week. So yes, Sachin,
Yeah, so
top.
I think by the end of the week, West Ham and Chelsea both can go above Liverpool if they win their respective matches, and both of them have easy matches. Like as you guys can see, Chelsea is
Yes,
against Newcastle and West Ham is against Sheffield, and both Chelsea and West Ham are in good form. They've started off, I think, ever since Chelsea are going in under a new manager bounce currently, which most teams go through when they hire a new manager midway through the season, especially when they're not playing well. And even West Ham have been pretty solid. They started this year on a very good note. They won, I think, the first 3-4 matches, and um, then not didn't lose their form, but they did lose one match against Liverpool, which Liverpool played really well. But the last 2 matches they've won pretty well. I think the last match was against Leicester, which they won, and I think yeah, both Liverpool could be as low as seventh by the end of this week. And like what we have to seriously start considering is the fact that Liverpool is not going through a blip now. This is like a constant run of bad form now. We thought that after that West Ham result that Liverpool have sort of stabilized now,
the rhythm back.
and that they
Yeah,
are and they that their top four that their front three is going to be firing now. But I don't think that is happening at all. Salah the front three, but actually the reverse is happening. When we think the front three is actually started clicking, now
the
their
defense
performance is
collapses.
going all over the place.
Yeah,
And even
true.
Allison in the last match, Allison was playing pretty shocking. Pretty shocking. I think you can definitely say that 2 goals were being conceded was down to him.
And
And
even today, the Vardy goal was
yeah,
assisted by Allison. Like there was clear confusion between the centre back and Allison. Allison shouldn't have charged so much up the pitch.
yeah, I
And
think
we
that you can't contribute that goal towards Kavak because he was not. I think he was caught in no man's land because of Allison, and that he couldn't take a touch. And Allison was completely down to that goal. Like you can't blame anybody else because if you're coming that high up and coming that high up out of the 18-yard box, you have to take the ball. Otherwise, you're going to be conceding because the goal is completely open, and that's what
and
happened.
like
Vardy scored very easily.
and after the Madison goal, we saw that they were running very low on morale because they weren't putting an effort. They were losing balls, and NDD was bossing Thiago. NDD was literally bossing the whole of midfield. So we can see like in the absence of Virgil van Dijk, there is a clear cut void which is unable to be fulfilled by other players because he was the commander in chief. He used to motivate all the players with his extraordinary ball playing ability, and various other things that he could do. So there has been a void that Klopp has not been able to fulfill. And plus, we also saw that Fabinho was not available today. And injuries have a very vital role to play because the season is going to be very long for Liverpool. It is not only for the top four finish, but we can see with Aston Villa, Everton, Tottenham Hotspurs, Chelsea, West Ham all have too many games in hand, and if they go on to win all their games in hand, they're going to finish above Liverpool now. So
Yeah.
it is going to be, and plus our condolences are with the Klopp family. Jurgen Klopp lost his mother recently, So that also I think is going to is going to affect his presence or his approach for the next week or two, because this is a very big loss for him on a
I
personal
think
level.
it's yeah, you made a right point because currently like his team is also not going into the best of form. So as a manager, as a manager of their team, he might have had some respite if Liverpool won, because obviously you're grieving, and due to the COVID restrictions, he wasn't able to go to the funeral, attend the funeral of his mother, and that's obviously going to be heartbreaking for anybody, like anybody, whether it's a manager of Liverpool or whether it's an ordinary person. Doesn't matter who you are, but losing somebody so dear is going to have an impact. But yeah, you said like our condolences are with his family, but apart from that, I think Liverpool. The problem which we discussed in the last live match reaction as well was that Liverpool are suffering from that problem of having a very their 11, as strong as their 11 is, their backup options are
Bench
not
is
solid at all,
very
and
bad.
especially if they signed Kabak and Davies. These are players you can't expect every player to hit the ground running, and especially if you're in defense where Klopp was having to shuffle so many players around in defense so just he could have some sort of stability, which they did have with Fabinho playing there, and either Matip was also there, but then Matip got injured and Henderson was playing there. So as a player, we discussed this point in the last video as well. The problem is that as a midfield player, don't have that awareness of sensing that ball out, especially like in the last match we saw the first goal that Liverpool conceded. Fabinho could have actually cleared the ball. He had an chance of clearing the ball. Even Trent did. Trent is defensively suspect for a good while now, so that's another
Yeah.
conversation. But even Fabinho, if it was Van Dijk or even Matip for that case, they would have cleared the ball because that is the first instinct. And for a midfielder, that is not their instinct, and that you can't really teach. That is how you're like develop as yourself as a player. Something
That's what
very
makes you a defender or a midfielder, rightly
if
pointed.
you're playing in that position for a long time, that is only then are you able to sense that particular danger. That happened, and even now Kabak has come in, but obviously this was not the best match for him. But you can't judge any player of one match, and especially if your keeper. The problem is with the keeper is Allison is such like a in the Liverpool team. He's a leader and he's a vocal part of the team. And if you're one of your like leaders and one of your best players is going to make such a mistake, it obviously affects the morale of the team all around you, and it makes the defense shaky as well. Specifically when I think nobody in their defense is playing that well. Henderson was playing decently well, but now obviously he's been shifted back to his original position of midfield. We saw that today, and even Liverpool were playing an odd, sort of odd
Formation is
formation.
like
They were
the
playing
players.
three at the back. Yeah,
So this match, we have to give it to Brendan Rodgers also, the man management that he's been doing, and the players performed exceptionally well. Even in the first half, Vardy had three clear-cut chances of scoring, one hitting the pass and one going over the top, and one a decent save by Allison. So we can also appreciate like Madison is going through a very good form these days. The free kick that he scored was phenomenal. A grounded, more or less grounded free kick, making most of the crowded space near in front of Allison, which clearly restricts his views. And then the third goal by Barnes.
I think Harvey Barnes is also playing decently well. I think last season was particularly the time when he actually broke onto the scene as a consistent player for Leicester. And before Jose Perez was in the team before him last season, then as he made his way into the team, he's more or less cemented that spot which Brendan Rodgers has given him, and he's performing really well. He's getting good numbers for a player who's so young. He's only 21 or 22, if I'm not
And he's
wrong.
also very quick.
He's also very quick. So I think that was causing Liverpool trouble. Obviously, Leicester against the top six, if you see, they normally play a counter-attacking style. They utilize Vardy's space on the break as well as Barnes. So and they have Johnny Evans and Wesley Fofana who are good ball playing centre backs on their own. So they can release that ball to for Vardy and Barnes to break, and that did happen as we saw. Because had Allison not messed up, they probably might not have conceded. But Allison did, and then they did score that goal. And it's about being in the good position. Even in last week's match, they drew. They drew the last week's match. Leicester drew the last week's match. But yeah, Vardy, we saw in that match that Vardy was taking up the good positions against Wolves. He was taking up the good positions. His movement is amongst the best in the Premier League when it comes to strikers. So
True.
obviously, in this match we saw he was causing the defensive line trouble. And Kabak, being a young player and especially being new to the league, it's going to be difficult for him to cope, and that's what happened.
Yes, Sachin rightly pointed out. Like Kabak is not somebody who has proven himself in the big ground. Had it been Upamecano or the likes, we could have expected some decent show from this person. But Kabak is relatively inexperienced and comes for a 5 million tax. So I don't think Klopp should be expecting much from his 5 million players. So he is basically been brought up as a backup just in case Fabinho or Henderson gets injured. Then he has no other players to go to. So he would obviously need somebody to be standing over there to be having a decent game. So that's what Kavak is all about for Liverpool as of
Uh,
now.
Liverpool have an option to buy for. They have a try and buy for the Kabak. That's like better for them. So in case Kabak ends up performing decently well, so that will be good for Liverpool because as soon as Van Dijk comes into the side, there's nobody displacing Van Dijk, and Van Dijk is obviously going to be there. So Matip is somebody who is potentially going to be the person who misses out, especially because of his age and his uh,
Fitness
injury record. And so that's
issue.
why I think if Kabak or either Davies, I think Kabak is going to be a front runner ahead of Davies. Davies is more or less a backup, given where he came. He came from Preston North End, so that's not really. He isn't a first team caliber player just yet. So Liverpool, I think if Kabak is able to perform decently well this week,
In the
with the
coming.
time he's given, I think he's going to be. I think he is going to be given a fair run of games because Klopp really needs Henderson and Fabinho in midfield because we can really see that their midfield looks they get dominated in every match they're playing in midfield, and I think midfield is the most important area where you have to be stable and uh, consistent throughout the match in order to win that match because that is where you win or lose a match. The midfield is the one that plays a crucial role in your transition because they take the ball from the defense and then they're giving it to the forwards. And if they are not in harmony, so that's going to be problematic. And that is what is happening.
We
Because,
saw that today, like
yeah,
mid lost a lot of possession today, except for Thiago. I don't think anybody else could have retained the possession. Like Curtis Jones is a very good player, but very young and inexperienced, and he couldn't match the physicality of the Leicester players. Like, and they consistently lost the balls. Wijnaldum is a good player, but hasn't been himself of lately. Like even like towards throughout the season, he hasn't been able to have much of an impact on Liverpool's overall performance.
I think Thiago, especially, he hasn't uh, worked so far. Obviously, there's a lot of time for him to work, and the team is also not is in like a state of disarray. So you can't expect any particular, specifically their midfield. The midfield has been very their midfield has been suspect, obviously, because Wijnaldum didn't play this match, but even Fabinho hasn't been there. So the problem with that is like whenever Henderson was in midfield, so he was that person who used to constantly stay back and be that protective layer in front of the defense, and that helped the other midfielders to push on because that's what Liverpool flooded the box, and that's what they did when Trent and Robertson crossed the ball. Mostly Salah or there was there, Mane was there, even Firmino. Firmino was sometimes deep, but Wijnaldum was mostly in that position, even Henderson for that matter, or Fabinho. But that is not able to happen because their midfield is constantly being shuffled around. That's a problem as well. And if you come to Liverpool's squad depth, that is specifically problematic, I feel, because we discussed this in the last match as well. Because as soon as somebody in the Jota is making his way back slowly and surely, but Origi is not good enough for Liverpool to rely on I think, for more than a few matches. If you
He
were
is
depending on him to fire,
like he pitches in with his tap-ins and stuff, but I don't think you can actually rely upon Origi to give you results week in and week out. So that
the,
has
I,
been like we also discussed all of these points in the previous video. Like Liverpool does lack their bench. They
yeah,
do not
even
have.
Shaqiri for that matter. Shaqiri, he's not get for any player. If you the problem when you play a fixed 11 every week is the players who come off from the bench. Either of they are of the quality that Manchester City have. They have players like Bernardo Silva and Mahrez on the bench. They do play some matches, but they are on the bench as well. So when they come off, you can rely on their quality to take you through when your players are not clicking. But for Liverpool, their quality is suffering because though Shaqiri is a decent player, but he's not of the caliber of say Mahrez or Bernardo Silva, that they can produce a magical moment to win you a match, which is lesser and less likely. Even Curtis Jones, for that matter, he's been playing decently well, but then relying on the younger players is something you cannot really something which is not sustainable, because they can produce that particular moment to win you a match, or get you
But you
that goal.
can't depend relying upon young players until it's like
That's
they're
I think
exceptionally talented.
that's where Manchester City actually capitalized on because they saw that they couldn't rely on Laporte for the entirety of a season, because he does have the tendency to get injured more often than not. But अगर हम बाकी players को देखो आप, बाकी they got Ruben Diaz in, or we were expecting कि Diaz और Laporte
No.
साथ में खेलेंगे, but Stones और Diaz became a good partnership. They have Ake and Laporte as well. तो मतलब जब कोई भी इंजर हो जाए सिटी की टीम में, the thing is that they can have a ready-made replacement, which Liverpool don't have, and the consistency बनी रहती है Guardiola के स्क्वाड में. हम देख रहे हैं now obviously सिटी 15 मैच लगातार जीत चुकी है, which is a record, league record. So, and they don't show any sign of slowing down. And I think Liverpool, we also discussed the fact that Liverpool are like top four is going to be their target right now, because title race is, like Utkarsh was cautious to make that statement कि title race over है, but I think मैंने और तूने दोनों ने कहा था कि नहीं, title race does look to be off now, especially because specifically because the fact that now they're 13, if City win the game in hand, they're going to be, the
Eight
City
point.
have two games in hand. They're going to be 16 points ahead, if I'm not wrong. They already were targeted to be 13 points ahead, and now they're going to be 16 points ahead. So that is with around 14 games to go. That is too much to ask for from a team, and you are expected, you have to,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, you have to rely on City to have a very drastic drop of form, which looks very unlikely.
With
So
the
I think
current,
Liverpool, their focus should be, the Champions League campaign is just like underway in a week or so. I think they should be focusing on the Champions League top four. If you like see Liverpool's form throughout the past few seasons, and Klopp and their team in general, you still don't expect Liverpool to finish outside the top four, given how they've been performing. But it is something which they seriously have to consider and regroup, because if they do not manage to pull themselves together, and they don't have, and the problem this season is specifically that you don't have a very easy run of fixtures for more than 2 to 3 games. There is going to be one team that can pull off that surprise. Whether it's because we saw it for Liverpool, they drew against West Brom, they drew against Fulham, they drew against Brighton. So they lost against Brighton, if I'm not wrong.
no, they lost 1-0 to Brighton at
Yeah,
home.
they lost 1-0 to Brighton. So there's no particular team where you can say this team is going to beat you. This is a very easy match.
This
So
has
that's the
been the
problem.
most unpredictable season so far in the last, like I think, last 10 years. I don't think any season has been this competitive or kind of this of this
Yeah,
sort.
and and I made a comparison to जो लेस्टर वाला सीजन था हमारा, उसमें उसमें what I think is a very glaring जो एक डिफरेंस है कि उस सीजन में all the teams were underperforming. सारी बड़ी टीम, कोई भी ऐसी टीम नहीं थी, because what Leicester did was capitalize on other teams performing badly, and they were consistent obviously. But जो उनका title win था, I think that was the lowest in one of the lowest in Premier League history. They had 81 points, if I'm not wrong.
Exactly.
So this could be the case this season as well. कुछ कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं कि एस्टन विला जैसी टीम और वेस्ट हैम जैसी टीम, दे आर पंचिंग अबव देयर वेट. बट अगर आप क्वालिटी ऑफ प्लेयर्स देखो उनके स्क्वाड में, पिछले सीजन एस्टन विला पे ग्रीलिश था खाली, जो उनको ही मैनेज टू ड्रैग देम थ्रू द रेलिगेशन फाइट. बट इस सीजन अगर आप देखो,
Watkins
एस्टन
has
विला
been
की टीम काफी इंप्रूव हुई है. वेस्ट हैम की टीम, दे हैव डिसेंटली इंप्रूव्ड एज वेल. इनकी साइनिंग थी, जैरेड बोवन अच्छा खेल रहा है, थॉमस सूसेक अच्छा खेल रहा
is
है.
very
इवन
good.
even Lingard has played one match, but he's hit the ground running. So they are doing some decent business. और बाकी टीम जैसे साउथहैम्पटन, अभी they're going through a bad run of form because of injuries. But Southampton is a team which is capable of beating any team in the division on their day. तो
And
लिवरपूल के लिए
should-
उनको बहुत जल्दी regroup करना पड़ेगा if they want to even finish in top four.
so, and what are your chances? What do you think where Leicester City are going to finish this season? Second or third?
I think second for nahi. Second, I'll still fancy United given how the season is going. But for Leicester, I think they can finish third. Third is not beyond the realms of possibility. Last season, उनका injury crisis सा हो गया था एक point of time पे, plus they were playing poorly as well. Even Vardy was out of form. तो
Then
इसलिए
towards the end of the season, Soyuncu had a 3-match ban because of the
और
foul that
Sochi, I think in the 35th or 36th match, they Soyuncu like he
against
lost his head. He lost his head. He very badly. I think against Norwich, and they lost that match,
it
which
was
we
against
expected that
Bournemouth.
against
Solanke won
Bournemouth.
2 goals, but
Bournemouth won that match, and I think Leicester, that match was like a highlight of their last half of the season because they were really not playing that well. Even before uh, the restart, they were not in the best form, and that actually after the restart, their bad form continued, and
and
that's why they eventually dropped out of the top four. But this
they also
season,
lost Ricardo Pereira, so which also impacted the season a lot. For that, they did some decent business this season. They got Chungus Under, they got James Justin, they also got Castagna, but
Fofana,
Castagna is out
Fofana
for
and
quite some time. Fofana is
yeah,
there.
Fofana is playing very well. I think being such a young player, he's only 19, and he's come into the squad and be such a like a reliable centre back for Brendan Rodgers, and he actually has a good defense. James Justin recently उसको ACL injury हो गई है, so
So he's
that is
out.
obviously he is out for the rest of the season obviously. But अगर आप देखो Ricardo Pereira वापस आ गया है. If you compare him to Justin, he's obviously I think he's a superior player because उसकी
And,
attacking threat is any day better than James Justin, जो खुद attacking अच्छा player है.
hmm,
And they have a good mix of center backs because अगर वो टॉप सिक्स के गेम्स जैसे वो थ्री एट द बैक खेलते हैं तो जॉनी एवंस, वेस्ली फोफाना
so
and
in
Soyuncu, all of these three defenders are very reliable and they have proven to be so for Evans and Soyuncu पिछले season भी and Fofana this season he's come into the side very well. So I think the best thing is that Leicester have some sort of squad depth now and they have good number of options to choose from, which can take carry them for the remaining matches of the season. And they, I think Leicester should be expected to finish. Obviously, they're not your traditional top six side, so
yeah.
लोगों की expectations थोड़ी कम रहती हैं ऐसी टीमों से. And I think that, but they can use that to their advantage because when you have lesser expectations from you, so you are able to uh,
The pressure
focus
is
more.
upon
Pressure
you.
pressure बिल्कुल नहीं रहता. हाँ.
So Brendan Rodgers is managing his players exceptionally well. Last season also he was pretty unlucky towards the end of the season that he couldn't finish in the top four. But this season top four is a like he has like I think United, Leicester, and City are going to qualify for Champions League. But top for the fourth position, it's going to be a fight this season. Like there are 5 teams who are there in contention.
I think शांतनु यहाँ पे कह रहा है एलिसन इज द न्यू डेया. आई डोंट थिंक डेया डेया इस सीजन तो कुछ गलत किया नहीं है डेया ने, तो कैरिसन इज मोर लाइक द एप्ट वन. Obviously, you don't. I refrain from making too much fun of players because it's wrong for us to we're not obviously Liverpool fans, but it's good to take the banter. But you can obviously realize the team is not in a good state, and Allison, he's clearly his head is not in the right space, and they could give Kelleher a shot in the team because the problem is this season there's no break. There's one a match after the other, so you really have to either be 100% or you can easily get replaced. And that's what happened. Shantanu is saying Kepa is better than Allison. I think you can say
Super
that. Some people can say
would
that
be
at this
upset
point of
over
time.
this comment.
But I think, yeah, Chaitanya, do you want to add something more about Leicester?
No, I don't think like all we've covered almost everything about Leicester, like the how their season is panning out. Michael is having a very decent season. Like we haven't seen him commit any blunders, like which have been of significance, like what DDG does or Allison has been doing over the couple of matches.
I think they has been coming to Schmeichel. Schmeichel जब से वो आया है Premier League में, he's been a very solid keeper. उसकी trajectory upward ही रही है. I think he's probably one of the good. If you have a sort of, if you categorize the keepers into the one of the world's best, you can make a case for him. Not the best, but obviously if you make a top 10 list, I think Schmeichel makes that list
Even in the
because
World Cup, we saw Schmeichel have a very decent World Cup with the penalty shootouts or even in on-match saves and stuff. He
yes,
was
even for penalties, especially, he's a person. I think it's very tribute to his father because he's able to make himself big. Because Peter Schmeichel की भी जो एक आप कह सकते हो trait थी, that he was always able to make himself appear bigger and make it difficult for the striker to get past him. और पिछले हफ्ते भी जो उनका वुल्स के अगेंस्ट ड्रॉ था उसमें भी एक काफी अच्छा सेव किया था फैबियो सिल्वा के शॉट पे, जिसमें he spread himself out and he just managed to save it. I think obviously Schmeichel has been very reliable for them. कभी बार गलती कर देता है, but I think every keeper कीपर्स में एक प्रॉब्लम क्या है, योर एरर इज ऑलमोस्ट सर्टेनली गोइंग टू लीड टू अ गोल बिकॉज देयर इज नो वे बैक. इफ यू आर मिडफील्डर, इफ यू आर अ फॉरवर्ड, यू गेट द सेकंड चांसेस. गोलकीपर्स के साथ ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं होता. गोलकीपर्स अगर गलती कर देते तो दे आर
There's no
कंप्लीटली
getting back to them. Like
इन द
they
स्पॉटलाइट.
will end up
हाँ.
conceding a goal.
So even the Leicester are they are a top six side if you consider even the quality of the squad, and I think both of us expect them to finish in the top four given how they're going this season. And if
Provided
you come to Liverpool, we've always, yeah, make your point. Yeah.
provided that they do not have any unfortunate injuries like they had last season, it is going to be a top three finish for them for sure.
Yeah, because they don't. If you like the thing is that slowly and surely, I think towards the 30, like as the season reaches its end, we are seeing some sort of consistency in terms of there's not like if you see this season there have been 8 or 9 teams which have actually been on the which have actually been on the top of the table. But now if you see there is some sort of consistency. Obviously, City ke paas lead have, but City is in the top, and even the top four is slowly but surely getting uh,
Cement.
constant. Even second, I think United have been second for a good while ever since City became first. Even Leicester have been in the top four consistently. Only the fourth place, as you mentioned, is between West Ham. West Ham, obviously, अगर आप practically बात करो, अगर आप कहो देखो कि West Ham कैसा खेल रही है और West Ham पे are they capable of maintaining the form? Obviously, you would bet against that. But
Yes,
when
but
it comes
Europa,
to Liverpool, I don't think it's sure.
Europa is a reality for them. There
इवन
are
स्पर्स, हमने स्पर्स की बात नहीं है, चेल्सी की बात नहीं है. चेल्सी अभी अगर ऑब्वियसली न्यू मैनेजर बाउंस है, बट दे डोंट हैव जस्ट एनी मैनेजर. आई थिंक टुखेल इज अ वेरी गुड मैनेजर, एंड
he's
उसका ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड जो यंग प्लेयर्स के साथ रहा है स्पेसिफिकली. एंड आई थिंक दे व्हाई चेल्सी ब्रॉट हिम इन इज स्पेसिफिकली बिकॉज दे हैव जर्मन टैलेंट ऑन देयर हैंड्स. एंड ऑब्वियसली वो उस बात उसका भी फर्क पड़ता ही है कि हैवर्ट्स और वर्नर जैसे प्लेयर को
फायर कर रहे हैं.
expected that Tuchel can improve them, and even there are other players, I think Hudson-Odoi or Christian Pulisic, even ZH, Mason Mount as well. Mason Mount, Utkarsh made a point in the video we made about Lampard sacking, that Mount could be out. But the positive about Mount is, I think a lot of people have ignored is that in terms of midfielders, he's the third when it comes to chances created. He's created 68 chances this season, which a lot of people ignore. तो माउंट काफी ऐसा प्लेयर है जो मैनेजर अगर उसे कोई काम करने को दे दे तो ही इज गोइंग टू बी डूइंग दैट. ही इज अ वेरी डिसिप्लिन्ड प्लेयर इन दैट रिगार्ड. दैट्स व्हाई आई प्रॉब्ली finds favor in the England team and as well as with
Which
Lampard.
is probably a rarity amongst the young players these days, being
Yeah.
disciplined and consistently
देखो,
performing.
he doesn't
In
have that rawness. I think young players have rawness. देखते हो कि they have that tendency to just go for every ball and they want to do too much. But Mount में एक discipline है कि he does what is demanded
he
from
has
him.
a level of maturity in his game. Like we can see with the ball distribution or with the passes that he makes, with the attempts that I've never seen Mason Mount go for too many attempts. Whenever he's 100% sure, only then he goes up with attempts, and those attempts are always very decent. He forces a save by the keeper or something. And with Chelsea, you pointed it rightly, but like none of their new signings have performed, like except for Benjamin Chilwell and Thiago Silva up to a certain extent. None of the young signings have performed as they were expected to. Like bringing in Kai Havertz from a German league for 90 million euros. Obviously, his performance has been abysmal. Like I don't see Kai Havertz dribbling the ball past two players or even making a penetrating pass for any of the strikers. He loses the ball way too easily. That's mostly the Premier League physicality that is obviously absent in the Bundesliga. But still, we expect a 90 million player to be giving a 7 on 10 performance week in and week out.
I think it's Havertz के लिए I think you are correct because Havertz expectations, obviously the bigger your price tag, the more expectations you have. But he's a young player, and given the physicality of the Premier League, अगर आप उसे if you somebody is seeing Havertz for the first time, he obviously doesn't look built for the Premier League, but that is something which you can work around. David Silva भी जब Premier League में आया था, he was a very technical player, and normally people write off the technical players. वो कह देते हैं कि physicality चाहिए Premier League में sustain करने को, but obviously David Silva proved everybody wrong. If Havertz can do that, that's a very great player to emulate.
Compare
अगर
yourself
अगर
with.
हैवर्ट्स कर पाता है तो बहुत बड़ी बात है. बट चेल्सी के साथ हम देखते हैं जैसे हैजर्ड जैसी साइनिंग, ऑब्वियसली हैजार्ड जैसी साइनिंग लगी मुझे. मुझे लगता है कि हैवर्ट्स वोंट बी समबडी इज गोइंग टू स्टे हियर थ्रू आउट हिज करियर. इट्स लाइक a stepping stone, a very good stepping stone, but he just came to the Premier League. It feels he Werner is somebody I feel who will stay more at Chelsea than Havertz, given how their form goes. क्योंकि Havertz एक ऐसा player है which Chelsea, like with the case of Hazard, they are going to eventually shift on for a better
bigger
price.
league, bigger
But yeah,
team.
we don't want, like, we're not talking about Chelsea, but I think अगर आप the teams which we discuss उसमें से देखो तो fourth position right now, if you go on, like, in the present, I think Chelsea look more solid as a team to displace Liverpool. Don't you
Yeah,
think?
I agree with you, but we can't write off Carlo Ancelotti's team. But
Right.
given that Dominic Calvert-Lewin would not be available for a week or two, we can see a slip up because they have a double game week with they're going up against Manchester City.
Yeah.
So
And
I
Burnley, I think they're going against
Burnley.
City and Burnley.
So both the teams are in decent form.
So I
So
think, yeah, even Everton, you made a right point that, there's so many teams which are out, which are fighting for that fourth position. Even Aston Villa for that match, for that case, because they have a good number of matches in hand as compared to the other teams, because they had that COVID outbreak in their
and
training
we
ground. That's why which they had some matches in hand. I think
Aston
they're
Villa
huge favorites.
also know that they have the mileage to make it till the end because last season also they were always there in the bottom, like in the bottom three in the relegation zone. But towards the end of the season, like in the last on game match week 36, I guess they defeated Arsenal and then they came out of the relegation zone and then they were safe. So I think they have the players in them, have the mileage to be there in the top four, no, not top four, but yes, Europa is a possibility for them. Also, they have three games in hand, and if they go on to win three of them, they'll be 4 points clear of Liverpool. If they go on to win two, they'll be 1 point clear of Liverpool. So Liverpool's top four finish will be a big win for Klopp, considering how the season is going out for them, and the other teams are consistently performing.
I think, yeah, Liverpool, they should be looking to, refresh the squad a little, because the squad does seem a little worn out. अगर आप अगले सीजन की बात करो तो there does come that question does want consideration, demand consideration, the fact that they might have to shift on one of their front three. uh, uh, एक लाउड माउथ शो जो जिसमें उदय है, जो हमारे साथ आया था पिछले पॉडकास्ट में, कुछ पिछले हमारे शोज में कुछ, तो उसमें हमने डिस्कस, मैंने उसके पॉडकास्ट में गया था तो मैंने डिस्कस किया था कि लिवरपूल का अब देयर वाज दिस ग्राफिक बाय द स्काई स्पोर्ट्स जिसमें था कि लिवरपूल जो फ्रंट थ्रीज रही है, जो वन ऑफ द बेस्ट फ्रंट थ्रीज इन द प्रीमियर लीग, उनकी एवरेज लाइफ स्पैन इज नॉट मोर देन 2 इयर्स. 2 इयर्स ही रहता है. जैसे अगर 2008 से देखो, यूनाइटेड का था जब रूनी टेवेज और रोनाल्डो था, उसका भी 2 साल था. सिटी का भी अगर स्टर्लिंग, अगुएरो, साने को दो दो, जो उनका मोस्ट प्रोलिफिक फ्रंट थ्री था, दैट वाज आल्सो देयर फॉर ओनली 2 इयर्स. तो आप अगर आप फ्रंट थ्रीज की बात करो, लिवरपूल का भी चौथा साल है, चौथा साल है टुगेदर. एंड थिंक, आई थिंक वन ऑफ द प्लेयर्स डज डिमांड replacement. Jota आ गया है, probably as a Firmino replacement, but Liverpool, I think they probably are looking to shift on either of Mane or Salah, because उनकी market value इतनी ज्यादा है. Most likely अभी Salah लग रहा है, because there has been
Some
some rumors around Salah leaving the club as well.
And like
But
they'll obviously look for Kylian Mbappe.
yeah, and even for Coutinho, we saw that Coutinho भी इतना अच्छा खेला था लिवरपूल में, but obviously he want उसका they are South American players, they have ambitions to play in La Liga as well, specifically for Real Madrid and Barcelona. So Liverpool ने उस समय they took that tough decision to sell one of their best players, and that have obviously paid dividends because they were able to replace him with Van Dijk and Alisson, who have
Alisson.
been pivotal for their success. तो अगर आप देखो, आई थिंक दे, बिकॉज लिवरपूल, हमने ये भी पॉइंट डिस्कस किया था कि फाइनेंशियली दे आर नॉट, दे कांट मैच सिटी. आई थिंक देयर वेरी few teams which can actually match City, but because Liverpool have relied on selling players to finance their big spending, so they probably are looking to sell some of their better players, one of their better players, and so they can get the better replacements in. Mbappe looks a little far fetched given the price he'll demand, which is going to be north of 150 million, I'm pretty sure, because he's only 21, 22 right now. So I think that pretty much wraps up what we've wanted to discuss. Chaitanya, do you have anything to add?
No, Achant.
I think we've discussed everything. And Liverpool, as the title of our live stream says, top four is in doubt right now for Liverpool. I don't think they can, take it for granted that they're going to finish in top four. Title race is all but over right now, and top four, Jurgen Klopp really has to get his act together, and the team itself has to get their whole act together if they want to be in the Champions League spots come the end of the season. And when it comes to Leicester, obviously they're a team which has achieved consistency, and Brendan Rodgers is doing wonders. And the team does deserve to be in the top four. And as both of us think, we do think they will eventually be in the top four come the end of the season. They'll go one better from last season and finish in the Champions League spots. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you to Chaitanya for coming on to the show in Utkarsh's absence. And I hope you guys liked the stream. If you liked it, please share it with your friends and comment your thoughts on the match today. And what do you think about Liverpool finishing in the top four? And if you want more of these types of videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. And thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.